Hey, everybody. Welcome to our baseball podcast. We are back for another week of talking baseball, MLB style, and it's a rough week in a lot of different ways, guys, but there's so much we're going to get to in this show. Absolutely loaded. Joined as always by David Swor. I am DJ Cox, and once again, we have Mitch Norman on the show with us. Mitch, thanks for coming on tonight, buddy.
Man, always a pleasure to be here with you guys.
Yeah, Mitch is really good at this, so we love having him on. And he's also an Atlanta Braves fan, which we're going to talk about that later too, because these Braves fans deserve a lot of time right now as far as talking about this kind of stuff. So I'm excited to hear your perspective and your fandom of the Braves and everything that you whipped through in October here coming up soon in the show. So first off, David, I kind of wanted to mention this right away. I know we were talking about this just a minute ago, but our thoughts and prayers right now are with our former teammate, Casey Davis. This has been an awful day. His wife passed away today, 2 young kids. So we are definitely, all three of us, lifting you up in prayer today and your family. I can't imagine what you guys are going through right now. She's definitely in the arms of our Lord and Savior right now, which is awesome. So we are definitely glorified by that. We do have hope in that, but definitely still a rough day nonetheless. And we wish them nothing but the best and everything that they're going through right now. So guys, another tough situation too, as far as the MLB goes. And the reality kind of hit, David. You know, they had talked about how this was going to happen December 1st. And with all the fun that we were having with free agency, it didn't really hit me as much, I don't think. And when I woke up in the morning, I think it was Thursday, and my phone just had all these updates from every news that they were locked out, man. And it's like, oh, you kind of get the gut shot that that's all over with all the signings. And now we're stuck, man. And there's a lot of different things they're fighting about, which is what scares me and makes me not optimistic. And you two can talk about how you feel about it when I get to you guys. But, you know, they're talking about service time, free agency, the amount of playoff teams, the DH and the NL. There's a lot to this, and that's what makes me very, very worrisome about all this. So, David, kind of kicking it off to you here to start. What are your thoughts overall about this? Which direction do you want to go with this?
Well, I hate to be this way, but I'm going to side with the owners here a little bit. I think, the players right now, we just saw Marcus Stroman, who is at best a number 2 starter, at very best, get $25 million for 6 years, $150 million for a number 2 starter. We just saw Justin Verlander, who hasn't thrown a pitch in over a year, get $50 million. It's a good time to be a baseball player right now. And so honestly, it makes me a little bit angry. I know there's another side of the story. There's the player side, the service time and all that. And I think that there's some room to wiggle on that. But I hate to be this way, DJ. I'm a little bit the owner's corner. I think this is going to be long and drawn out. I think the season's probably not even going to start on time. Very disappointing. The one good thing that did come out of this, I think there needs to be a free agency deadline. That was awesome. That last week of, everybody trying to get signed before the lockout. So I enjoyed that, but I think it's going to be a long, hard winter.
So, man, you brought up a good point there. And I think it was 2 or 3 years ago where we had free agents going all the way into February and March before signing. I hate that. I really do. Like, I think that's got to go. I agree with the deadline. Like, you need to sign. Obviously, there's some exceptions to this rule, but they've all got to sign by a certain point. Or it's not going to happen. I don't know how they would make that work, but I'm a big fan of that too. I'd heard that was a possibility that they might talk about that too. Maybe not with this collective bargaining agreement, but maybe the next one. So, Mitch, what are all your thoughts and some of the things you're hearing about the lockout right now?
Well, just my quick takes are, in these situations across sports in general, the players usually lose. Like the players are usually the ones who they don't have the bargaining chip of just millions of dollars sitting there that, and they need to get paid, right? So the players usually lose. And I think that makes this difficult. Dave is so right. Like the market is almost out of control, right? I mean, you got Scherzer gets paid what was it? What was 130 million for 3 years or something?
Oh,
And
yeah.
I don't think Scherzer's going to be good for 2 out of those 3 years. Now he could prove me wrong. That guy's amazing, but what is he? 36? He's up there.
37.
37. He's
He's
37.
37. They just paid $130 million, and he'll be 40 years old when that contract ends. And and that's great for Scherzer, but it's kind of bad for everybody else. And it's gonna there's a bubble that's gonna be popped, and that's kind of what we see. The players usually lose when they hold out. I think it'd be wise to come to the table. And I know this is never gonna happen, but I just want to say it because I feel like it needs to be said. The guaranteed contracts, I feel like, are a little bit of a problem.
It's a
And
huge problem.
yeah.
I'm so glad you brought that up, Mitch.
Yeah.
The only sport that I know of that has a guaranteed contract, Max Scherzer's getting paid $130 million whether he throws a pitch or not.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Great point.
Yeah, I mean, so I think it would free these teams up to pay guys there are like guys who, okay, so you have the service time. And baseball is the hardest sport to understand, in my opinion. But you have the service time, and these guys have to put in so much time or whatever where they can be eligible for free agency. And then the league wouldn't or the teams wouldn't have to kind of dicker around with their time if they had more money, because they weren't so tied up in these guaranteed contracts that are really a huge mess.
Yep.
And I know it's a lot more complicated than that, but I think that that's, I mean, is Bobby Bonilla still getting paid?
Yeah.
Million a year.
Yeah. That's just hilarious, and so I just, I think the guaranteed, I know the players will never let that go, but that's actually part of what's hurting them. And that's why these guys aren't getting paid what they should be on the front end of their career, is because so many guys are getting overpaid on the back end.
Yeah. I agree.
Man, this is such a loaded topic, David. Go over really quick, if you don't mind, and you talked about this specifically a lot with and I tend to agree with you with the floor of teams like Baltimore and Pittsburgh. If you're a fan of the Pirates or the Orioles right now, and you have zero chance of winning the World Series because Max Scherzer literally makes more money than your entire 25-man roster right now, which is crazy to think. And as a fan, who buys into that? Like, who goes to the games when you have that payroll? So you're talking about a floor and a cap. Now, is that what you're hearing too, as far as we're going to try to get a floor and a cap? Do you think the players are fighting the cap and not the floor? How's that working right now?
I actually haven't even heard that that's specifically on the table. I don't know. Maybe you guys can input there. Maybe that is. I think it's a great idea. I think the floor is an awesome idea. And to be honest with you, I also like the cap. The Yankees that's my team, but they've benefited from this. They just outspend people. The Dodgers, they just outspend people. And both teams have paid a price for that in the past, but they've also won because of it. So I'm very much in favor of a salary floor. I'm also in favor of making that first round, those first 4 picks of the draft a lottery. I heard that. I think that's an awesome idea. That way you're not just guaranteed, hey, if I'm in last place, the worst record, I get a first round pick. I think they need to make that a lottery. But again, I'm just going to say it. I think the players are kind of babies here. I can't help but say it. I realize, that owners do manipulate that service clock, and that's not right, and that needs fixed. But like Mitch said, there's no sport where you can be injured for an entire contract and just eat millions and millions of dollars. And players need to be thankful for that, and it doesn't seem like they are.
Yeah,
there's a lot of problem with tanking. They were talking about, Scott Boras is big on this. He's saying teams are tanking to get better draft picks. That's a problem they're fighting about right now. The designated hitter needs to come to the National League. And Mitch, I know it would help the Braves a ton from your perspective, getting Ozuna back immediately. He's already coming back. Acuna will be back. And you've got all those guys that are coming back that he traded for, with the exception of Jock Peterson, probably, who's gone. But a lot of guys, a lot of offensive, opportunities for the Braves in the future. What are your thoughts on the DH in the National League, Mitch?
Okay. In my heart, I'm just going to be honest with you, I hate it, because I've been just loving baseball since I was a kid. in the National League. And some people don't like this. They're like, in the NBA, the East and the West have different sets of rules, and the NFL don't have different sets of rules. Well, but we're not that. We're baseball. So who cares? So I love that. I love the sacrifice bunt. I love the strategy. I love the double switch. I love it all in my heart. Right. But in my head, I realize that that's probably not best case scenario for the game moving forward. You know what I mean? And I kind of understand it, and there's a little bit of like it's a little corny sometimes, like you have these huge playoff games and you got Zach Greinke up there, trying to get a hit, which he's actually a good hitter. So that's pretty funny. But it's just, yeah. In what other sport do you have like not professional hitter trying to hit either? You know what I mean? So, and it really, and honestly, I'm really surprised more teams haven't tried to go like the Shohei Ohtani route, or with even somebody like Max Fried, who's just an incredible athlete. And Max could pinch hit for you. I mean, he could.
Yeah.
I'm so surprised that teams in a world of analytics where, the degree and angle of your swing has to be so perfect and so right. Why are we not trying to get more runs out of that 9-hole spot? That's amazing to me. So really, in my head, I realize I think it's got to change. But in my heart, I love just good old National League baseball. I love the strategy. I love when pitchers hit home runs, and it's the coolest thing in the world, anyways, so that's my take on it. I mean, and I'm probably weird. I know a lot of the old timers hate it. A lot of the younger people than me are like, bring it on. It's done. We're still doing this. I'm kind of in the middle, I guess.
I couldn't have said it any better myself. But I am kind of done watching guys like Bartolo Colon swing a bat.
Oh yeah.
I get it from both ends. I love the strategy of the National League, all that stuff that goes with it. But pitchers hitting to me is awful and not really fun to watch. And but yeah, there's a lot to this, guys. Is there anything else that you wanted to add before we moved on? I know there's like many layers to this, so I didn't really even know how to break all this down, like what we wanted to specifically talk about with this. But if there's any other things you got to want to talk about with this lockout, we can do that now. I don't know if there's anything else that.
The only other thing I'll say that I'm against expanded playoffs. I hate expanded playoffs.
Another thing.
I'm probably very much in the minority on that. But why play this 162 game season if we're going to let 16 teams in the playoffs? So that's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you because, man, these series are really long too. And another thing about, the way these series works is that 7-game series, and I know the Braves had the worst series, of the season, but they were very good after the All-Star break. I think when you have a 7-game series, the best team is generally going to win. And so I think if you start adding a lot of teams in, it becomes more of like the NCAA tournament in basketball, where it's like you got a lot of upsets, and it kind of changes. It really changes the dynamic of what the playoffs are. I really feel like over the past few years, take the Astros out of it a little bit for the cheating thing, but I think you really are having the two best teams that everybody wants to see, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. I know the Braves upset, but as somebody who watched the Braves play for the past 30 some years, I enjoyed it, but I know that I think it takes away from what the playoffs is when you start adding in it, because you're going to have to add in short series, and that changes everything, especially in a game that's so reliant on pitchers and their bullpen, and it just changes everything.
Very true, man. Could have said that better myself either. That's a really good perspective on all that. So, man, it does not look good. I'm not optimistic by this at all. This is going to go on for a while. This is going to get ugly if we get to Valentine's Day and something isn't happening, because that's when pitchers and catchers typically report. So I'm hoping, man, and I know we all are, that this gets resolved. But right now, I just think there's way too much going on, way too many different things that are going on to make this go on. So we'll continue with some somber notes here. There was a few guys that we actually watched play ball, David and Mitch, that passed away recently. And I wanted to get to this before we got to the other part of the show here. So Pedro Feliciano, relief pitcher with the Mets from 2002 to 2013, age of 45. with a heart condition. Spent his whole career with the Mets. 22-21 career record, 3.33 ERA. The Mets obviously loved him as they kept him his entire career. He had 350 Ks and 383 innings pitched in his career. He led the league in games pitched 3 times from 2008 to 2010. 86, 88, and 92 games pitched, which is awesome. Willie Randolph, his former manager, said that Pedro was always ready to go. He would never say no to pitching. And as you guys know, if you're coaches, you love pitchers like that, guys that'll take the ball no matter how they're feeling. Give me the ball. I don't care. He was definitely one of those guys. I heard on MLB this week that talent is number 1 for a player, but availability is number 2. And I love that, David. As a high school coach, you can probably say that you can have all the talent in the world, but if you're not going to be available for me, if you're not going to play for whatever reason, or you're going to be hurt, or you're going to whine about stuff, then you're not as good of a player as somebody who has the talent and will play for you. So I love that. And Feliciano was one of those guys who was available, which is huge. So a good guy, man. 211 career opponent average versus lefties. So he was definitely dominant versus lefties. So rest in peace, Pedro Feliciano. David, do you have anything to add about him?
No, I do remember how nasty he was. The Yankees actually signed him right at the end of his career, and I was really pumped about it, but it was a minor league deal and he never got up. But I just hate to hear it. If I'm not mistaken, he had a heart condition, if I'm not mistaken, DJ. And again, just kind of a kick to the pants because I think he was about our age, and you just hate to see that, hate it for his family, but he was a great player.
Mitch?
Yep, 45 years old, man. And lefty specialist, and a guy that, a guy we watched when we were really watching a lot of baseball back before we had kids and jobs and stuff like that. We were watching Pedro Feliciano. So, man, that's cool, man. That cool to think back on his career, and obviously heartbroken for his family, but he has a legacy of a player who worked hard and played hard, and it has some nasty stuff. So that's pretty awesome.
No doubt about it, man. Speaking of nasty stuff, the death of Doug Jones, a former Cub in 1996, spent most of his career with the Indians, 7 seasons, 303 career saves, which is unreal, 29th all time on the list of saves. Career 3.30 ERA with a 69-79 record over 16 MLB seasons from 1982 to 2000, where he made 5 All-Star teams. Passes away at the age of 64. Doug Jones, man, that guy was nasty. You could see him coming out of the pen for the Indians, and that's where he's known. And I was pretty excited when they got him. I remember that little stint with the Cubs. It was very brief in 96. I was in high school at the time, and the Cubs were actually starting to get good towards that 98 season. And I thought that they would keep him around a little longer. Didn't end up happening. But Doug Jones, David, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, like you said, just nasty, a grinder. One of those guys. It wasn't always pretty, but he got the job done, and great career. And hate to hear that.
Mitch?
Yeah, I think he had a sweet mustache, if I remember
right.
The goatee, right?
Yeah. And actually, I read a little bit about him today. I think he was a Christian guy. I think he coached at a Christian college and for a Christian high school afterwards. After his major league career. So I mean, you don't usually just happen into 2 or 3 jobs at Christian baseball things, whatever. So I think he probably was a Christian guy, man. We're all here, we're all believers, man. So that I was like, oh man, that's cool, So that was really cool to see that. So yeah, man, the mustache, man, I remember that. And so when I looked at him, I was like, yeah, I know that guy.
I think 300 is a magic number, man. If you hit 300 as a closer, what a career, man. And he got 3 over that, which I'm glad he did. That's really awesome. And then our third guy, Lamar Hoyt, man. This was something that I studied up a little bit on him. I always wondered why his career was so short. He had an 8-year career, mainly with the White Sox. He had 6 seasons with the White Sox and ended his career with the Padres for 2 years. He was the 1983 Cy Young Award winner, where he was 24-10 with 260 innings pitched back when starters weren't a bunch of wussies. It's funny. Yeah, he led the league in wins in 1982 with 19, and in 1983 with 24, led the entire league in back-to-back seasons. Then in 84, he leads the league with 18 losses. So you go from one extreme to the absolute other extreme in one season, which is crazy after two dominant seasons. And by 86, he's out of the league, David. And I was always wondering why he was such a quick career. And it is unfortunate to read today that he had a lot of drug problems. He fought a lot of demons. And as we saw, David, and I don't know if you saw this, Mitch, but the 86 Mets, the ESPN documentary that they did, talked a lot about the drug problems in the 80s, especially with cocaine and a lot of pills that many major leaguers were taking. And Lamar actually tried to cross the Mexican border back into the U.S. with a bulge in his pants full of pills. So he had a lot of drug problems. And I think that ended his career, to be honest with you. After that happened, some of the guys that did drugs, like they looked away from, and we saw that in the documentary as well. Some of the guys that it happened to, they completely kicked them out and were looked bad upon, which is crazy to have that double standard. But Lamar was one of those guys, for whatever reason, that they didn't turn a blind eye to, and they got him for it, and he was out. And pretty crazy story. What a career, though, real short. But he was dominant. He won a Cy Young and won a lot of games. So, David, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, man. 14 complete games in 1982, 11 in 83, 11 in 84. Man. I mean, I don't know if there was 14 complete games in the entire league last year. Probably not. So, I mean, obviously awesome. That's just sad what drugs can do to someone. I hate it. 24 wins, man. Wow. That's just amazing. Again, most guys don't even hardly make 24 starts anymore. So that's amazing.
Absolutely, Mitch.
One thing, if you look at Lamar Hoyt, man, he wore some of the sickest 80s uniforms. Okay. Back when like the Padres were like, whose team color is brown? Like the Padres are like brown and like burnt orange or something. And he's like the brown pinstripes and the brown hat and Padres. I mean, like who? And then like the White Sox paid for the Sox, man, back when they had that red, white, and blue deal going, had the number on like your thigh. You know what I mean? Like, man, that's like
they wore shorts there one year.
Yeah,
like, one game, right, DJ?
Yes, hideous.
Yeah, I see. I didn't even understand that. I thought that was like at BP or something. You know, on the baseball card, they're like wearing the shorts. I'm like, is this batting practice or what is this? Like, yeah. But one thing about these guys back in the day too, man, is they look like they were like working construction, like pouring concrete, and they got off work and went to the ballpark. Like they're not like these chiseled athletes you see today. They're like working men, blue collar, jumped off the diesel truck and ran in the stadium and threw my jersey on. You know, like. And Lamar Hoyt's one of those guys. He like freaking threw like a million innings, you know, and man, they just don't make them like that anymore, man. You know.
Nope. Sure don't, buddy.
So true, man. So rest in peace to all three of those guys that we had the privilege of watching some point of their careers. So to the signings, guys, before the deadline, there's a few ones that happened that we didn't get to in last week's podcast, which we had about 1 million in last week's one. But Javi Baez, David, goes to the Tigers on a 6-year deal. Last year, 31 bombs, 87 ribbies between the Cubs and the Mets, 29 homers and 85 ribbies in 2019, 34 bombs, 111 ribbies in 2018. He's really starting to turn it around here in his career, offensively and defensively, obviously, too. So the Tigers, man, Spencer Torkelson, Riley Green, Akil Baddoo came on hard in 2021 here. So they traded for Tucker Barnhart to be their catcher. Miguel Cabrera will hit till he's 67 years old, will be their DH. Tiger signed Erod, like we talked about, to go with Skubal, Casey Mize, Matt Manning, solid young rotation. Matthew Boyd, I just read, David, our worst ace in baseball, got non-tenured and is now a free agent, which I did not hear until today. So Boyd is no longer with the Tigers. What are your thoughts on the Tigers so far and what they're doing here, David?
Well, I told you before, I love the Erod signing. I love the pickup of Tucker Barnhart, man. What a great catcher to kind of mother your starting staff along. You know, there's no doubt Javi Baez makes them a lot better, but I'm just not a Javi Baez fan. I'm sorry. There's no way I could give him that much money. That's just me.
Hold on.
Doesn't get on base enough. Nope.
You're
Go
going to
ahead.
pay Carlos Correa $300 million. You can get Javi Baez for 160. Take that 140 you were going to get Correa with and get 2 more guys. That's kind of what I would do. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, in theory, it sounds great, but Carlos Correa is, he's amazing, and I would 10 times prefer Correa over Baez. He's just way down for me. Baez is just way down here somewhere. He's a punk. I don't think he's really a guy I would want wearing my uniform. Just to be honest with you, that's just me.
Gotcha, man. So, Mitch, what are your thoughts on the Tigers?
I always get scared about 6-year deals. You know what I mean? Like anytime I hear a guy sign for 6 years, like that makes me nervous. Another thing too is I don't like middle of the road players. Like I'm with David here. I'd rather have Carlos Correa, 300 mil, best in the business, or there's a prospect. There's somebody there who can fill the spot, and I can put that money somewhere else. I don't like spending like a good bit of money on somebody I don't like it. I'd rather go a different route. I'd rather go somebody cheaper that I can move if I need to, or I like to go top of the line. I'm not a big fan of the middle of the road guy. I'm not a big fan of that. So that's kind of my take on Baez. I haven't watched him play really enough to tell you. I don't feel as strongly about it as David does. I'll put it that way,
Well, kind of my beef with Baez too is, and DJ, you love to talk about this on other players. He doesn't get on base. And so, well, with a lot of these guys, Craig and others, if they're not hitting bombs, at least they're walking, they're getting on base, they're finding a way. Baez 2 years ago hit 203. Okay, he hit 265 this year. Like I said, good player. I'm probably in Mitch's camp, actually, middle of the road. I mean, he's better than most shortstops, but I like I said, I just wouldn't want him on my team. DJ, you watched him play. What do you think?
He's got to cut down on the strikeouts, which drives me absolutely nuts. He's definitely, like you said, the on base has got to go up and the strikeouts have got to go down a little bit. Defensively, you're not going to get much better than him. You're really not. He's an absolute stud defensively. The things that he does with the intangibles as well is magical. Some of the things he pulls off out there on the base paths, with the things that he does, I've never seen anything like it, to be honest with you. The play that he made on the Pirates, I will never forget how he hit an inside the park home run basically off of a dribbler to a first baseman. And the play that he made when he fooled them into running him back to home plate and throwing the ball home to try to get Wilson Contreras out. And then he ran to first and ended up going all the way, is unbelievable to me, to second base. And I still, he's got a great feel for the game. He's a great player. I think it's a great signing. I personally, now if the Tigers aren't going to do anything else, then I would rather have Correa. I'm with you 100%. But if this is all that they're doing, if they're going to do more, I should say, then it makes sense to me to go get a lot more guys with all that money we're going to spend on Correa and using it towards other pieces, because there's a lot of spots on that team that need to be filled still. And the Tigers can be really close. And we talked about this in our preview. They're not very far away from starting to contend in the Central and be a team that's going to be reckoned with in the future. So I thought it was a great signing. I was bummed the Cubs didn't get him back. I thought, there was a possibility they talked about it, but I guess I'm going to be bummed a lot, right, David?
Yes, you are.
To the Angels, Raciel Iglesias gets a 4-year deal to resign, $58 million, keeping the bullpen intact there as their closer. Are the Angels going for it, David? Are they really going for it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they are going for it. Iglesias is underrated. Not terrible money for a guy of his stature, to be honest with you. I mean, you think Iglesias, and I think people look at that and think $16 million a year, $17 million a year, whatever it was for Iglesias, but go look at him, man. He's been one of the best closers. I do think the Angels are trying to go for it. I don't blame them. They have two of the best players on the planet, and if Rendon comes back, they got a killer trio. But they need a couple more starters, in my opinion, and we can talk about it.
So, Mitch, what are your thoughts on the Angels, who seem to have to be honest with you, Trout's as good as it gets as far as player goes. Ohtani's a freak and something we've never seen before. So you've got like 2 or 3 of the best players in the entire world, and they can't get a team around them. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think my thought is you got to pick up guys like Iglesias. I mean, that's and it's not this super. I feel like they're that team that they always make the sexy pick. You know what I mean? Like they go to the party and they hang out with the coolest kid and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, they don't it's not enough, and they've signed these huge money contracts, but you need people like Iglesias. You need guys, and just to put it in Braves terms, like Matzik. Like you need these guys, these horses who aren't the coolest guy at the party all the time. Everybody can't be the coolest guy at the party, So the Angels, man, I mean, if they keep making good signings and don't just pigeonhole themselves with contracts like they did with Pujols or whatever, then I mean, because they have. I mean, I never thought Ohtani would be what he is. Like, you know what I mean? I'm like, wow, I can't believe it. And I'm waiting. He won't be the last. Like there are more. There are too many talented ball players out there. Ohtani won't be the last who does that. And the way they get there is by doing stuff like this, like signing somebody who's a solid, like serviceable player who's a little under the radar. They got to do a little bit of money ball. They can't always be the coolest kid, at the candy store. And so I think they're going in the right direction. I think it's going to be interesting because, and honestly, I kind of think Trout deserves it, man. Like, come on, man, give that guy a team.
Yeah, man.
Yep. 100% agree. We need
I totally agree.
We need Mike Trout in the playoffs, and we need Shohei Ohtani in the playoffs, to be honest with you, because that draw from Japan to, how much people will actually be watching that with Trout and Shohei Ohtani in the playoffs would be absolutely amazing. So, David, we got to talk about this one, and we've been texting about this a little bit. The Red Sox. So here we go, man. Here's what the Red Sox have done here in the last week. James Paxton gets a 1-year, $10 million deal as a risk. They want to try to sneak him in there, 4 or 5 starter possibly. Michael Wacha, 5 starter. They get Rich Hill as their 4 starter. They trade
Mr.
back
Mountain.
They trade back for Jackie Bradley Jr. for Hunter Renfroe to the Brewers, and they got rid of Renfroe to make room for the Japanese player Seiya Suzuki, who they are hard after right now as well. So they currently have Jarren Duran in left, Jackie Bradley Jr. in center, and Alex Verdugo in right. What are the Red Sox doing, David?
Yeah, great question. Is Wacha going to pitch out of the bullpen possibly? Is that is the biggest head scratcher to me. I really don't even know what to say. The dude had a 5.60 ERA last year. I'm thinking Rich Hill can't stay on the field. Great when he pitches. And James Paxton, hey, he was a Yankee. And, he was good for about half of one season and could not stay on the mound. I do not understand that. Boston is so close. They needed some of these stud pitchers. They lost Erod, in my opinion. They still haven't even replaced him.
Nope.
And then as far as the Jackie Bradley trade, that is the biggest head scratcher to me, man, because, hey, what happens if you don't get Suzuki? Let's talk about that scenario. So, I heard the same thing. We're clearing room for Suzuki. Well, what happens if you don't get him? Right now, you got a guy that hit 160 playing center field for you next year. And you just traded a guy that hit like 25 or 30 bombs. I have no idea what they're doing.
They're gambling.
I guess. I mean,
and that's all I can think is that they're rolling dice. And I wonder, I just you kind of hear that and you're like, man, like I hope they have something better in the works than what the media knows, because it does feel like a gamble. I don't mind like the 1-year contract stuff. It's not that big a deal, but those guys, you need more than that, for sure. It feels like you're so right about what if you don't? What if that doesn't pan out? Then you just got a bunch of mediocre players in Boston,
Yeah, and at a time when they can win. I mean, they're going to have Sale back next year. Evaldi finally is an ace. They can win, and they're not that far away. I mean, what if they took all the money they gave those 3 pitchers and gave it to Stroman? Let's just talk about that, or a guy of his caliber. And they could have done it. And like I said, maybe they make us all out to be liars. I mean, they did last year. We had Boston in like 4th place last year. So maybe they do it, but I just think it is crazy.
Yep. For a team that close, I'm still scratching my head at these moves. More to come, hopefully, because they're so close, man. Cesar Hernandez to the Nationals from the White Sox. 21 bombs, 62 ribbies last year, 71 RBI in 2019 with the Phillies. Will be the second baseman for the Nationals. Man, the Nats are bad. I just looked at their FanGraphs starting lineup. Oh man, not good. They have definitely torn this thing down. But you've got studs like Juan Soto and Josh Bell to build around it. Juan Soto's as good as it gets, boys. That guy is. When he gets paid, I don't know if there will be anybody who gets more money. He's going to be up there with Trout in the amount of money he gets. So I guess this is a piece that they want to put around Soto, but the Nationals are a long ways off. And so I guess my question on this is, do you think that the Nats are going to go 10 years, 400 million or something like that with Soto to lock him up? David, do you think that's in the future here pretty quick?
Yeah, definitely. He'll probably surpass everybody. He probably deserves it, and he's still young, man. So not that he deserves it, but if any player does, Juan Soto does.
So Mitch, a 4, I believe, off the top of my head, I think it was a 465 on base percentage from Juan Soto this year. That's because a lot of people didn't want to pitch to him, especially after they made all the trades and he got on base a lot. They were just like, forget you. We'll let whoever else beat us because you're a stud. So what are your thoughts on Soto?
Oh no, he's amazing. So I've actually got to see him play a little bit because they play the Braves like 19 times a year. So the dude, he just walks out of the dugout and you're like, whoa, that guy's good. You can just tell his thighs are like 2 of my thighs. He's generating a lot of horsepower when he swings that bat, guys. I mean, he's great. He's just he seems like a guy with his head on the right way too. He just seems he's the real thing. I think with guys like him and Acuna, and if the Mets keep signing crazy people, and the NL East is gonna be a lot of fun to watch. And honestly, man, the Nats are in a place where they have to sign people to put around Soto, or they're gonna be like the Angels and Trout. Like it's gonna turn into the same deal. One thing that's interesting is that the Nats are kind of strange in the way they put together teams. I feel like, I mean, I've seen them lose when I thought they should win. I've seen them win when I thought they should lose. So they don't really seem to have a real method to how they do it. I think a lot of other teams, there's a little bit of a method to it, and they have the kind of their own culture and the way they want to do things. I don't know that with the Nats. I think they kind of just do their best
lucky
every year. Yeah, I mean, and they kind of, and really they had 3 pitchers get really hot, and that's how they won, and that's how they won the series. So I can't tell you that I think they're going to sign him, because I don't know what they're going to do, because they seem to be a little erratic in the way they approach, their free agents.
Very true, man. That's going to be an interesting thing to see. If they commit to him, then they've got to start putting a team around him, because if you're going to spend that much money, you better start winning. That's for sure. So
absolutely.
Chris Taylor, our last one, he resigned with the Dodgers. Man, was that awesome to see. I was really glad that my boy's back with the Dodgers. 20 and 73 last year, utility clutch performer, comes back. It's a 4-year, $60 million deal. He cashed in on an awesome season, an awesome playoff, really. First half was awesome. Second half was bad. Playoffs was awesome. They keep one of their key players and makes them more flexible to go out and do a lot of things that they could possibly do. And Mitch, I'm sure you saw way too much of Chris Taylor in that series. I'm sure he drove you absolutely bonkers.
Quit pitching to that man. Quit throwing baseballs in his direction.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he drove you nuts. That's for sure. So this segment's probably going to get thrown out next week since we no longer have these going on right now. But the free agent rumors, I just want to go over a few guys real quick. David, Carlos Correa, man, have you been hearing the Cubs and on Carlos Correa? Have you heard? Dave, don't you shake your head at me. Don't you start with me. He has been
David isn't believing it.
I
wildly
fully
thrown at the
expect
Cubs this week.
Andrelton Simmons will probably be the Cubs shortstop. He might be the Yankees, though. I don't know what's
Yeah.
going to happen with Correa, man. I
I've been
still
down
kind
that
of feel
road
like
before,
he's going to go
boys.
back to the Astros, you know? You don't think he's going back to the Astros?
Oh yeah, I was shaking my head at Mitch. Yeah, that's a
Oh.
possibility for sure. Astros, Yankees, Tigers are out now. I had them on there, but now that they got Baez, that's not happening for sure. You don't want to put Javi Baez at second base anymore. Trust me. It's kind of like you don't want to put Trey Turner at second anymore. Those guys are shortstops. Let them be. You don't need Carlos Correa. I mean, you could use them. Don't get me wrong, but spend the money different ways for sure. But I'm telling you, Marcus Stroman's first thing when he signed was to call Carlos Correa and tell him, "Let's go, come on, buddy, let's go." So I'm excited about it. It was something that actually was like, wow, they're rumored in on a big free agent for once. So we'll see. I mean, I know
who started the rumor, DJ? You? Did you start the rumor? Because I haven't heard this rumor.
Well, I'm pretty sure every social media I came under, a bunch of fake names, starting this rumor myself. That was going to happen. So yes, definitely me, but I got it going. And now the big boys are talking about it on MLB Network. So I got it.
It started out on DJ's blog and it just grew from there, man.
Yeah.
Anonymous sources say.
There's a lot of free agents left. Chris Bryant, come back to the Cubs, please. Mariners are rumored. Mets are rumored. Mariner, I agree. Mets are not going to get him. Mets are such a joke. I sent that little thing to you guys before we came on the show. They're not going to be any better than they were. They lost Baez this week. I mean, they keep losing players and trying to – it's not – we're going to work that way. Clayton Kershaw, Dodgers, Rangers. Either he goes back to the Dodgers or he goes to his hometown team with the Rangers. I think those are the only two options. The Cubs are a little bit rumored into having him as well. Trevor Story, Mariners want him to play third base. The Rockies, I heard the Cubs were in on Trevor Story a little bit too.
Yeah.
So. No, Trevor Story though, guys. What are your serious thoughts? You think that? See, at the trade deadline, I think he was frustrated they didn't trade him, and now all I hear is the Rockies want him back and he wants to go there. So that's really weird to me. What are your thoughts on that, Mitch? Any thoughts on Trevor Story?
Yeah, I just don't know enough about him to make a great insight. Supposedly Boston's looking into him. I don't know what that means with everything they have going on, but I remember that. I remember the trade deadline and Trevor Story being available, and the reason I remember that is because I thought for a minute, once again, I hate to reference back to the Braves, but I thought Dansby might get traded. I thought, and Trevor Story was in the loop, so I remember that, but I can't speak into that enough. Obviously, he's a good ball player, but man, that is outside of my realm of knowledge right there.
Trevor Story, David.
Yeah, I actually like Story probably more than most. I don't believe as much in his bat. I think Colorado had a lot, to do with that. But the great thing about Story is he has a high floor. He can field. He can do a good job at his position. So I like Trevor Story. I'm going to be honest with you guys. Watch the Yankees on this one. It was rumored that they were after him at the trade deadline. I would watch out for the Yankees on this. There's not a lot of places for him to land. You might want to keep an eye on that. I can't really believe that he would go back to Colorado, seeing as they're nowhere near contending. So watch out for the Yankees. And he's crazy if he goes to the Mariners and plays third base, if you're asking me.
I agree. I do agree with that 100%. Now here's another thing, man. There's so many good free agents still left out there. It's crazy. Kyle Schwarber, rumors to the Phillies, Red Sox, Rockies, and Marlins. I'll throw the Cubs in there too because I can. Anthony Rizzo. Okay, now these are the two I kind of want to get at here a little bit, Mitch. And this is kind of where I'll bring you in for sure. Freddie Freeman and Anthony Rizzo. So I've heard Freddie Freeman being linked to the Dodgers. That came up recently. Now that they have lost Corey Seager, they moved Max Muncy to second. Gavin Lux is kind of the odd man out. Then they put Freeman at first as Trey Turner slides over to short. If that happens to the Braves, they go out and get Anthony Rizzo to somewhat replace Freddie Freeman, soften that blow a little bit. So that's the newest rumor on those two. Mitch, what are your thoughts on that?
Not gonna lie to you boys, I'm a little nervous. Okay. Now, here's the thing. They need to re-sign Freddie. We love Freddie, but
Yeah.
I picked up very early on. I mean, so listen, we broke the story here. You heard it here first, people. I don't think the issue is the Braves. I think the issue is Freddie. I think that's what it is. I think, and this is something the Braves have done where they have say, Freddie says, I want this. The Braves say, we want to pay you this. And the Braves will say, hey, we're not going to bid against ourselves. Go shop the market and then talk to us. I think that Freddie is the hangup. So whenever the players are at the parade saying, re-sign Freddie, I think the whole time, Alex Anthopoulos is sitting in his suite going, man, we're trying. I believe that. I think Freddie's the hangup. I believe that maybe his wife or maybe his family, they want to do the West Coast thing. I think that they've done a lot in Atlanta, and I'm a little nervous. And like I said, breaking the story here first, I'm a little nervous that Freddie's the one with the holdup, not the Braves. And the Braves,
Listen, Brian Cashman is going to swoop in. Yeah.
He's going, okay, that's it. Yeah, that's it. Okay. Well, I mean, hey, he may, because at this point, see, I think the Braves have put the cards on the table, and I don't know how involved Freddie is in this, in the lockout. If he's like, hey, I'm not signing anything, maybe it's that. But I felt like really early on, man, because the Freddie talk has been going on for a long time. And I'm just thinking, man, and the Braves are really big on trying to sign these guys. They signed Acuna and Ozzie, and they love this. If they like you, they want to sign you. They didn't sign Freddie. I think it's Freddie. I think, Freddie's going, hey, it's not me, it's you. That's what Freddie's saying. So anyways, I think I really honestly, I think there's something to the Dodger rumor. I think there might be something to the Yankee rumor, as much as I've heard more. I've actually heard the Dodger rumor for a good bit now.
David, that's not going to happen, buddy.
Hey, I'm telling you, this is tailor-made Brian Cashman signing. Yankees come in with more money than everybody. He's the perfect player. They actually need everything that he brings to the table. Don't be surprised, guys.
All right,
man, we broke the story right here, guys.
So to the next topic, guys. So this is something that's really cool, and I thought about this today since we're going to talk about Hall of Famers a little bit here. The All MLB team will now go on to Hall of Fame credentials and will have a lot more hold on me than All-Star games will. I don't know how you guys feel about that. I think the All-Star game is a cool accolade to have. But give me the guy who gets the All MLB team, who did it the whole entire season, and not just the first half got hot and then maybe fell off, because we see that happen a lot. So this is going to be something that in the future we're going to start looking at. Well, how many All MLB teams did he make? To make it to the Hall of Fame. So really cool that this is added on to the end of the season here. I'm going to go through these really quick, and I'm going to ask you guys about a couple guys who are on here to talk about them real fast. Salvador Perez is your catcher, 48 bombs, a record for a catcher, unbelievable. Vladdy Jr. is your first baseman. David's MVP over Ohtani, 48 bombs, leading the MLB with 123 runs scored. Marcus Semien gets second base, 45 homers, single season record for second baseman, knocking off Davey Johnson of all people, record as a second baseman. Tatis Jr. gets shortstop, 42 bombs, 97 ribbies, 99 runs scored in an injury-filled season. Mitch, Austin Riley, 303, 33 bombs, 33 doubles, 107 RBI. Please talk about how awesome the season he had real quick.
Dude, I think I actually said it when I was with you guys last time, and I think I've erased those notes, but man, I kind of said that, hey, Riley's kind of that guy that he might make or break the Braves, and he really needed, like, he had that kind of sophomore slump thing, and he really needed that year where he kind of shows, is he a real big leaguer or not? And he came out and he really showed it. And I think he should have been considered a little bit more strongly for the MVP. I'll put it that way. I'm not going to say, I think he's a better MVP than Bryce Harper. I'll just say that. So I think that's disappointing, but the guy, and it's not just that the guy hit the ball so well. A lot of guys had good numbers. this guy hit the ball in clutch moments. And I know they're hard to measure, but man, that guy, and he's just, and honestly, he's a good kind of quiet guy, and he's a little under the radar, but fantastic season. Huge reason why the Braves did what they did.
Yep.
Juan Soto, 465 on base percentage, led the majors. Crazy. 145 walks, also an MLB high. Awesome season. He easily could have won the MVP as well. Bryce Harper did win the MVP. He also made the team. 35 bombs, 84 ribbies. OPS off the charts. Aaron Judge, David, 39 homers, 98 ribbies. Healthy season. Talk about Judge for a second.
Yeah, I mean the management plan for Judge worked. He's on the field, but he's proven if he can stay on the field, he's the man. And it's super exciting to watch. I'm glad to see him win that award. He deserves it.
Shohei Ohtani's your DH. David's not impressed. Max Scherzer, starting pitcher, 15-4, should have won the Cy Young, 2.46 ERA. Corbin Burns did win the Cy Young with a 2.43 ERA, 6.88 K to walk ratio. I love that. I hate walks. You want to get my doghouse as a coach, as a pitcher, start walking people. I can't stand that, and everybody else obviously too, but that K to walk ratio is outstanding. Big reason why he won the Cy Young. Walker Buehler, 207 innings pitched, 2.47 ERA. Robbie Ray led the majors with 248 Ks, led the AL and ERA with 284. Garrett Cole, David, 243 Ks, 3.23 ERA. You thought he should win the Cy Young. Talk about him for a second.
Yeah, man. I mean, if you take out, I think that last month kind of, tainted everything that he had done up to that point. And he was the best pitcher in baseball if you take out the last month when he was injured. And I'll just leave it there.
Josh Hader's your reliever, 34 saves, 1.23 ERA. Should be trade bait for the Brewers. I would get a haul for him if I were the Brewers with all the good stuff they got at the back end of that bullpen. Liam Hendricks, MLB best, 0.73 whip, which is outstanding. He gets first team honors. Second team, Buster Posey. I'm going to say one thing about him, 107 team wins. And when you're a catcher, that means a lot. That's outstanding. I'm going to leave that stat right there, 107 team wins. Mitch, Freddie Freeman, NL high, 120 runs scored, 300 average, 393 on base. Talk about his season real quick.
The dude is so nice, you forget how good he is. You know what I mean? Like, if he was one of these guys that did the backflips and, spit the tobacco and talk smack and all that stuff, I think you'd respect him more, and it shouldn't be that way, but that's what it is. He's such a good guy, such a clean player. He goes to first base, and everybody is like, Freddie, what's up? They're like long lost bros over there doing the World Series. Like, oh, Freddie, we hate these guys. We got to beat these guys. Quit being nice to everybody. You know what I mean? He's such a nice dude that you forget how darn good he is. But I'll tell you who won't forget how good he is. And that's somebody that's one of the best closers in baseball named Josh Hader. He'll never forget Freddie Freeman. He has bad dreams about him because Freddie Freeman is that good. And Freddie Freeman had one of the nastiest yaks in all of baseball this season to end that series. Guy's amazing. And I really want him to come back to Atlanta. All right. I said it.
Awesome, man. That is so true. Good point on Hader. That was a huge moment in that series, crushing the Brewers' hopes. Right back to you, Mitch. Ozzie Albies, just the fourth second baseman with at least 30 bombs, 20 stolen bases, and 100 RBI in a season. Joining these three studs, Ryan Sandberg, Alfonso Soriano, and Javi Baez, all former Cubs, of course. Talk about Ozzie Albies.
Hey, listen to that. Hey, Ozzie is also one of those guys you kind of take for granted. He's Ron Darling doesn't like him because he's a switch hitter. So, anyways, we can talk about that later. But Ozzie's also one of those guys who does a lot. He's not a big guy. He swings a big bat though, and he's a little silly. He's always out there laughing and having a good time, and you forget how dangerous he is. And he's with Acuna all the time, who's incredibly talented. He's almost like Acuna's little brother. But the truth is, man, this guy is the heart of this team so many times, man. He's passionate. He makes big plays. He's almost like just a very raw person and player. And they're just, sometimes there's these, it's not just talent stuff, it's hustle stuff too that he does. So the guy really is, I think, better than even Braves fan realize, so I think he's taken for granted a little bit. But man, he's a stud, man. And that swing is amazing. Yeah, just that little guy, that huge swing. So yeah, man, we love Ozzie. He's very deserving of that second team award for sure.
Yep.
Trey Turner's your shortstop, 328 average, won the batting title. Rafael Devers, career high, 38 bombs, 113 RBI, 101 runs scored. Nick Castellanos, 309 average, 34 bombs. Kyle Tucker, 30 homers, 92 ribbies, another offensive threat in Houston. Teoscar Hernandez, 32 bombs, 116 RBI, crazy, 346 on base percentage. Yordan Alvarez, 33 homers, 104 ribbies. Shohei Ohtani gets the starting pitcher. Also, the starting pitcher and DH got both of those, which is crazy. 9-2, 3.18 ERA. Julio Urias, 2.96 ERA. Kevin Gausman, 14-6, 2.81 ERA. Max Fried, 14-7, 3.04 ERA. Zach Wheeler, David, 213 innings pitched, 2.78 ERA, 247 Ks, led the National League. He was your pick for Cy Young. Talk about him for a second.
Yeah, man. But it's back to led the league in innings, led the league in strikeouts. How's that not your Cy Young? I'll just leave it right there. I mean, that's two pretty big categories in my book, and I still don't understand how he missed it.
Yeah, the National League Cy Young to me was the toughest one to pick, and I think they got it wrong. But Raciel Iglesias, who just signed with the Angels again, won second team relief pitcher, 59 games finished, which is really cool that he is on the mound at the end of a game. 2.57 ERA for the year. And Kenley Jansen rounds off the team with a 2.22 ERA, 38 saves, and he still hasn't broken down. Every year we call he's going to break down, and he still hasn't done it, which is kudos to him, man, because that guy did blow one game in the playoffs, but that was it. Other than that, he was rock solid. So really cool. All MLB teams, I love that kind of stuff. And then real quick, I'll go over this Cubs update. Clint Frazier signing with the Cubs, highly regarded prospect in the draft, hasn't lived up to it. 5-year career with the Yankees, total of 228 games played, 29 homers, 97 ribbies, 239 average, 327 on base. Best season was 2019 with 12 homers, 38 ribbies. David, what's been the problem, man?
Can't stay on the field, man. He's got some mysterious concussion issues. I actually really like Clint Frazier. I feel bad for him. He never could. He used to always had somebody better than him in front of him, and it was just hard to play him. But 2 years ago, I think it was, went on a big hot streak. I thought, man, this is going to be a 40 home run guy. I hate to admit it. This is a good pickup for the Cubs. Plays great defense. Don't be surprised if he hits 25 or 30 homers next year.
1-year deal, so it's not much of a risk. And like you said, I think that it was a good signing just to have him as your third or fourth outfielder, no doubt. Yan Gomes gets the 33-year-old will back up Contreras as a catcher. It seems we used like 18 catchers last year, so this was a problem when Contreras was out for a while too. So hopefully steady back up and can be productive at the plate. At 52 RBI last year with the A's and Nats, so that's good. Cubs fans be encouraged by the Carlos Correa rumors. We already brought that up. I'm excited about that. Marcus Stroman, 71 million reasons to smile, 3-year deal. Crazy to me he got that much money, like you talked about already, David. 61-60 career record. I still remember him for dominating the World Baseball Classic the year the USA won it. I think that's what he's best known for. 3.63 career ERA, will be slotted in as the number 3 starter behind Hendricks and Miley. 3.02 ERA last year for the Mets, but his record was 10-13 because the Mets absolutely stink. So the Cubs have got a few more moves here. Have definitely gotten a little bit better from where they were last week. And hopefully when this stupid lockout ends, they can make more of a splash. David, anything going on the Yankees front to mention or no?
No, not really. I mean, first base is still supposedly open, even though they have Luke Voigt. The Yankees lineup's pretty set. I mean, just to be honest with you, they need a shortstop. I will not at all be surprised if that's Andrelton Simmons, just to be honest with you. They don't really need a huge bat there. They just need some defense. Still need a center fielder. But I think I don't think that's going to be a big name guy.
So your comeback players real quick were Trey Mancini, 21 homers, 71 ribbies, 255 average, 326 on base. Unbelievable season for him coming back from cancer. He won that before the season even started, to be honest with you. Buster Posey came back after being out last year, 304 average, 18 homers, 56 RBIs. Congratulations to those two studs on winning that award. So here we go, guys. the Hall of Fame debate, and we go through this every single season. We will go through about 8 of these a week and talk about these players. So what we did have, David, and we'll talk about it at a different time when everybody is mentioned in January when the writers guys are added to this. Gil Hodges, Jim Cott, Minnie Minoso, Tony Oliva, Bud Fowler, and Buck O'Neill are in the Hall of Fame, and there are going to be some guys that hopefully get added to that. We will go over those guys' careers when the other guys are announced later on. So number one, I'm going to start with you, Mitch, on this one because I really wanted your perspective on Barry Bonds, who you recommended a book for me to read. I did get that book. I'm a very slow reader. I will finish it very soon, but I have been going through this book on Bonds. So would you vote for Bonds? So everybody's got to say yes or no to every one of these players and give me the reasons why. So we'll start with you, Mitch.
Absolutely not. Not even close. If you won't let Pete Rose in, you can't let Barry Bonds in. The guy, I mean, he didn't even try to like pretend like, he didn't know what he was doing was wrong, and the more you look into his career, man, just the worse it gets. Now, to be honest with you, we all know, we sit around here and talk, we all know he was incredibly talented. I could kind of bust on his game, but I can't make any good arguments about his talent. The guy did amazing things. But he also cheated. And quite frankly, it's pretty easy to prove, so I just, it's a easy no for me. I don't like him based on, what I've read. I didn't respect him as a player when I saw him growing up. It's just an easy no. That's where I am.
David?
Very easy yes. And here's the reason why. There's a lot of reasons why, but we went over this before. DJ, we went back and you said, hey, I want to be looking at all MLB teams as a stat now or whatever. Listen, we can carve through stats upside and down the other. Here's some stats for you. All-time home run leader, all-time walk leader, all-time leader in WAR. He was the best player on the planet. He was probably the best player on the planet before he took steroids. He definitely was after. And the other thing about it is, and I bring this up all the time with you, DJ, how can we know who was taking and who wasn't? And there's no answer to that question. And so, listen, I don't need Minnie Minoso in the Hall of Fame. I need Barry Bonds. You know what I mean? Like, I respect that these guys did that clean. But listen, Craig Biggio, do we know that he was clean? Nope. He's in the Hall of Fame. Jeff Bagwell, do we know that he was clean? Nope. He definitely had rumors around him. He's in the Hall of Fame. And on down the list we go. You can't just carve out an arrow of baseball. You can't do it. And so that, for me, Barry Bonds is a very easy yes.
Barry Bonds is a very easy no for me. I am reading that Bonds book as well, and I don't care about his character as much as that means nothing to me as far as Hall of Fame goes. But some of the things I've been reading, Mitch, and you read this too as well. What an idiot teammate. What an idiot to coach as well. Jim Leland hated him. What I'm reading more and more through that book, a lot of his problems come from his father. Bobby Bonds was an absolute jerk and instilled that all upon Barry, and Barry was an absolute jerk. There's stories that Barry Bonds was very jealous of Andy Van Slyke, of all people. Thought he should be playing center over Van Slyke. Thought that Van Slyke was getting special treatment there in Pittsburgh. Didn't like him at all. Almost got into a fight with R.J. Reynolds on a plane, which if you've seen R.J. Reynolds back in the day, that's not a very smart move on Barry's part because R.J. Reynolds would rip him into 40 pieces before Bonds started taking steroids. So he didn't do any favors to any of his teammates. He was a horrible teammate. And that's why him and Jeff Kent fought so much, when they were with the Giants. Those two butted heads all the time on those teams. And Barry, Barry gets a lot of votes because people believe he was a Hall of Famer before the steroids. 762 homers. The video game numbers back in 2001, 73 homers, 137 RBI. The numbers are ridiculous. It's not even if you're going off numbers, not even close. But here's my honest. Okay, so we've given our yes or no, and 63% last year. This is his last year on the ballot. Quick answer: does he get in this year? Does the push happen for him? Yes or no, Mitch?
I don't think so, because he hasn't. Okay, there's a little bit of a political side to this where you kind of got to win the people. Barry doesn't care, you know. And going back, like one of the most famous plays in all of Atlanta Braves history is when Sid Bream slid into home. Sid slid, they win the game. They only won the game though because Barry Bonds is a moron and wouldn't scoot up, you know, to save the run, which Van Slyke's out there in the outfield telling him, hey, slide up so you can throw him out. And Barry's like, shut up, you idiot. And then they lose the game because of it. So the guy, like, over and over lost games because of his just idiocy, you know, and it really is pride. And so it's just hard to say that, that guy. So I still, like, I don't know. I think I got wrapped up in the Van Slyke story. What was exactly? I didn't really answer your question probably, but that's how I feel about it. But I don't care. I mean, Barry doesn't care either. That's the funny part. Like, there's a story in there where, like, the guy's seeing his World Series ring, and Barry's like, how many of those rings I can buy with the contract I just signed? So we probably care more about this than Barry does. I don't know.
So do you think he gets the push and gets the yes from the voters, David? Do you think that he gets to 75%?
I think he does.
Wow.
I think it'll be by the skin of his teeth, but I think he does. We'll see. And just to be honest with you, I'm gonna sound really mean when I'm getting ready to say, if I'm Barry, I don't care either. When I'm watching these just completely undeserving guys get in, big deal. They've watered it down so much anymore. Big deal.
See, that's a really good point too. Like, Barry's probably sitting at home laughing because, he knows he's so much better than everybody else on the ballot. Maybe this is all a huge joke. I don't know.
It honestly, to me, I hate to be this way again. We're getting ready to talk about it and try to make it interesting, but it's a huge joke. Your all-time hit leader and your all-time home run leader are not in the Hall of Fame. But some guy who, had 8 good seasons, DJ, by golly, he had 8 good seasons. We're going to put him in. Nobody can say his name, but we're going to put him in. I'm sorry. I'm just kind of over it.
Yeah, and it is the Hall of Fame. And I think that if you have to explain who somebody is, then
my whole thing, and I've said this before, Mitch, just tell the truth. Just tell the truth. Hey, this guy had 400 homers before we had drugs. Then he got on drugs, and he, along with a bunch of other people, were on it too. But it was the most exciting time, in a lot of people's lives, was watching Barry Bonds hit bombs out in the Bay. Why cover it up? Just tell the truth.
Yeah. No, the truth takes you a long way in life. I believe that. So no, I think you're 100% right. That makes way too much sense, David. You quit making so much sense in life, man. Jeez.
I'm going to predict he gets 67% of the vote and does not make it, which will kick him off the vote and will only leave him to the Veterans Committee, who put all these guys in this week. What a sad fall for him, no doubt. But he did to himself. He really did. And it's not going to happen for him. If he gets on there, it'd be an absolute miracle. I really believe that. But one of the things that kind of I'm a little leery of is maybe some of these writers are saying we're going to punish him to the absolute max, which is 10 years, and then I'll vote for him. So I'm going to make him sweat it out all those 10 years. People do this, but I just don't know if there's going to be enough of those guys who are going to do that. I really don't think it is. So I think he will gain percentage points and go up from where he was last year, but will fall ultimately short. Mark Burley, 214 wins, 160 losses, 381 career ERA, known for throwing a perfect game for the White Sox, being a World Series pitcher. My vote is a hard no. Mitch?
Oh, I like him, man. I like him. He's probably the last of I don't know if he's the last, but he's one of the last of an era that threw a lot of innings. And I mean, I think he has 211 wins, maybe. I mean, that's a lot of wins. And, that's a lot of wins in baseball now. I mean, in 10 years from now, when guys are getting in the Hall of Fame with like 90 wins, they're gonna be like, man, I can't believe, Burley's not in there with 200 wins. So of a lot of the guys we're going to talk about tonight, I think he's one that I would say yes. He had a really nice career. I think he had a lot of wins. He had a lot of memorable games. You wanted him when you were playing fantasy baseball, and I like him. And he was a White Sox. That's the problem.
That's DJ's problem.
Yeah.
Listen, I love Mark Burley. 14 out of 15 years threw over 200 innings. His last year, he could have pitched for 5 more. Somebody would have signed him probably for 5 more years. He could have ground out 250 wins probably if he had wanted to, but he didn't. But having said that, I can't put him in. Only one top 5 Cy Young finish. If you're not one of the top 5 pitchers in your league fairly, often, I just can't do it. So I'm out.
Bobby Abreu, Mitch.
He wasn't good enough long enough. That's how I feel about Abreu. He's a 2-time All-Star. He actually did a lot of cool stuff. Like he stole a lot of bases, hit a lot of bombs. And in a lot of ways, he really was a lot like Barry Bonds, just not nearly as good and didn't do it for nearly as long. But so I just don't even. The problem is I feel like there are maybe other people in there who are about like him. But the truth is, to me, 2-time All-Star, Silver Slugger Award 1 time, Gold Glove 1 time. I don't think that cuts it. Even though, I like the guy. He was fun to watch. Whenever he was in the batter's box, you knew he could go yard. But I don't think that puts you in the Hall of Fame.
He's in the Hall of Good. He's not in the Hall of Great. If I walked out on the street right now and asked 10 people if they knew who Bobby Abreu was, most people aren't going to know. He's not famous, therefore he's out.
He's in. Bobby Abreu is in.
Of course.
He is in.
Not surprised.
Listen. You can fight me all you want. I don't care about all-star teams because Bobby Abreu was probably behind a guy we just talked about, Barry Bonds, Hall of Fame guys like that who just dominated the sport for many years, even though they cheated. This guy did not cheat, okay? This guy had.
Are you sure?
Seasons.
Are you positive? You're not.
You're
not
100% positive. You're right.
You're not sure.
Not in the Mitchell report. Never suspended. So that's what I got to go off of. So RBI, 8 seasons over 100 RBI. And what I also love about him is he hit the snot out of the ball at a high pace, 312, 335, 316, 308, 300, 301, 297, 296, 293. That's an outstanding hitter when you're hitting over 300. And your on base is 409, 446, 428, 427, 424. These numbers they're not normal numbers. Outstanding. He's 2,470 hits in his career. Like you said, he kind of fizzled out there when he got to be about 38 years old. But up until then, man, he was awesome. And, like you said, he's not very famous, which I don't really care about. It's the numbers that I care about. And I don't know how you can look at those numbers and not think that those are outstanding.
He doesn't have one Hall of Fame statistic. Not one.
He's
not
one
even
is
close
right.
to 3,000 hits.
10 years of dominance. He's 500 hits away. 500 hits
for the Yankees all this year. I got to see Bobby Abreu every day. Every day. Was Bobby Abreu ever the best player on the team? No. He wasn't even the best player on his own team, DJ.
Okay, who was better on the Yankees team in 2007, 2008 when he had over 100 ribbies?
Well, obviously they had A-Rod, Jeter. I don't know if they had Hideki Matsui that long. He was definitely living in his shadow. Listen, I love Bobby Abreu. I'm not hating on Bobby Abreu. But what do you have, 200 homers?
288 bombs. That's not
man.
enough. So
I don't need the homers. I don't need him. I need a hitter. He's a hitter.
Okay. He doesn't have enough hits. He doesn't have enough homers. What other statistics do you need? He wasn't even the best player on his team. He made one all-star team. I mean, he was a good player.
So another
He was
thing
a
about the
great
All-Star
player.
game, it's kind of a popularity contest, the All-Star game, a little bit, and this is the Hall of Fame. So that kind of goes when when you're not a lot of All-Star teams, you're not very well known, and that plays in. I know DJ doesn't care about the fame, but he also doesn't care about home runs. So I don't know what to say to that. But if you're not on the All-Star team a lot, you're not very well known, and that plays. That I feel like that is kind of a marker for a guy who's maybe not famous.
Yeah.
I
Silver
disagree.
Sluggers. How many did he have?
I think just one.
He wasn't the best hitter in his league. He played in the American League. Yeah, his position. I mean, like, what are we talking about? A guy with 288 homers getting in the Hall of Fame. A guy without 3,000 hits getting in the Hall of Fame. It's nonsense.
What's your magic war number, David?
I don't really have a magic number. I think they say the average magic number is 60. I think Bobby Abreu is in that vicinity or over it. I like Bobby Abreu. Listen, I like Bobby Abreu. He was a good Yankee. It's just he's not worthy of the Hall of Fame.
So
I
I
disagree.
always look at Tim Raines' WAR, and it's like 69, but he played forever. So even the WAR number, because I think Tim Raines, to me, that's the floor, man. And I would say Bobby Abreu, I think, is a better player than Tim Raines in some ways, but so that's the floor to me. All right, and his WAR is like 69.4. So I don't know, but that's because he played for 23 years, man. Like you can really rack up a lot of wins, in that time.
Very intriguing, Bobby Abreu, no doubt about it. I'm going yes on him. So Scott Rowland's another one that a lot of people are voting for. Mitch, what are your thoughts on Rowland?
So when you bring up Scott Rowland, I say no, because I feel like he's like a blue collar third baseman, like a really good, really serviceable guy, a guy who's going to win you some ball games, and he's very likable. However, when I looked into it, he was actually way better than I thought he was. So if you say yes to Abreu, you have to say yes to Scott Rowland. He had more bombs. He had more all-star picks. He,
Gold
I
Glove.
mean, dude, he was Mr. Philadelphia Philly for a little bit there. And so, man, he was Rookie of the Year, if that means something to you. I don't know. So I would say yes to Rowland, but I don't really like it. I don't just love him as a player. I don't think he was. I don't know. He was better on paper than I thought he was. That's what I'm saying here.
Scott Rowland's definitely getting in. I would not put him on my ballot personally, but he is 100% getting in probably this year. I didn't get to watch Scott Rowland play, so it's hard for me to appreciate him. I know he was a defensive whiz, but again, no Hall of Fame statistics with the bat, and so I just can't do it.
Doesn't have the 10 years of dominance, 5 years over 100 ribbies. Everything else is not close. Besides 1 year, he had 95, he had a 92. So he did have a couple 90 ribby seasons as well. 281 career hitter, which is lower than Abreu, less ribbies than Abreu, less hits than Abreu. If defense is going to factor into this, then yes, he's better at defense than Abreu. He is one of the best third base defensive players of all time. I will give you that, top 5, probably for sure. But I don't think it's enough. I think that he fell off really hard after 2004 in his career, really bad. So he had a little stint from 97 to 2004 where he was really good and then just wasn't consistent long enough for me. So I'm going to go no on him, but I'm with you, David. I think he's getting in, and I think a lot of people are for Scott Rowland, and I think his numbers are not going to get him there this year, but he's going to climb to a point in the next couple where he's going to be pushed in for sure. Jake Peavy, I will go hard no, 152, 126, 363 career ERA. Mitch.
Not good enough long enough. I don't like I like Jake Peavy. If it's like, we're picking our fantasy baseball team, back in like 2009. I'm kind of a big fan of him, but he just wasn't good enough long enough to me, even though, two-time World Series champ. He does have a Cy Young. He actually has a lot of cool like awards, but I just didn't feel like he was good enough long enough.
Yeah, I'm out. Take away injuries, and he may have a case, but injuries kind of robbed him. So I'm out.
Had a little hard time with this. Joe Nathan as a no for me. 64-34 career win-loss record, 287 career ERA, 377 saves, which is 8th all time. I may get there with him. I'm not going to lie to you, but I'm not going to get there until Billy Wagner gets in, because that's an absolute joke to me that Wagner's not in. But Joe Nathan has a case, man. There's no doubt. And I hope he does not fall off the ballot. I will say no for now, but it's possible because he's a closer, and I have to look specifically at what he did for a living and how good he was against other people who close. So, Mitch, what are your thoughts?
Relievers are the hardest ones to me. Like, I have a really hard time with relievers because, they don't pitch a lot. They pitch in really weird scenarios. I kind of like Joe Nathan, man. 2.87 ERA, 377 saves. That's a boatload of saves, dude.
Yep.
So, 6-time All-Star. Man, and he got all those saves for the Twins, basically. Not all of them, but quite a few of them. And so, I kind of like him. I like him about as much as I like Scott Rowland. And that's not what you asked me. You said yes or no. So I'm going to say yes, but it's a hesitant yes.
David?
He's really borderline. I'm going to say no for this year, but I think he's got a case.
He definitely has a case. If you talk about closers, Carl Crawford, 1,931 hits, 290 batting average, 136 homers, 4-time All-Star, 480 career stolen bases, led the league 4 times with stolen bases, over 80 RBI 3 times, 2003 to 2010. He played really well, but then he fell off really bad. Hard no for me on Crawford. Good career. Definitely not Hall of Fame worthy. Mitch?
Hard no, man. I actually got to watch Carl Crawford kind of grow up. He played for the Durham Bulls in AAA, which is where I'm from. And so I got to watch him as a prospect. So I got to follow his career. And as promising as he was, I still don't think Crawford ever really became the player that they hoped he would be. He played for some good teams. He really played for some very popular and good teams, but he doesn't have Hall of Fame numbers. I don't know. I just a no.
David?
Yeah, hard no for me too. I will say he had more stolen bases and the same batting average as Bobby Abreu, but he just ran out of gas. He didn't play as long.
And our last guy, Roger Clemens. I'm going to go no because of the roids, 354 and 184. The best right-handed pitcher not named Greg Maddux that I've ever seen in my life, just being honest with you. A 3.12 career ERA, 4,672 strikeouts, which to me is the most intimidating stat that a pitcher has. Awesome numbers. Hard no, can't do it. Mitch?
I've already taken my stand with Bonds and said, it's a no. One thing that's different about this over Bonds, I think David said earlier, Bonds would have been a Hall of Famer with or without the steroids. I don't know that that's true with Clemens. I think his career was starting to come apart, and the steroids really brought him back. And so to me, it's a little more of a no. It's a no because of the steroids. His steroid use is almost as documented, if not more, than Bonds. But then I think his career was coming in shambles. He was hurt. I think he had a chance, but what solidifies his numbers are the post-steroid numbers. So to me, this is an easier no for me because of the roids. Like I said, I've kind of made my bed, so I'm going to lay in it. I said no to Bonds because of the roids, so I have to say no to Clemens because of the roids.
Again, same camp. Just tell the truth. You can't tell the story of baseball without Roger Clemens. He's famous, one of the most famous. He's in for me.
Yep, going to be very intriguing to see what they do with him too. He's at about the 63% mark as well. I predict he will not make it either. I don't think they're going to be enough of a push for these him and Bonds are the 10th year on the ballot. It's going to be very interesting to see what they do with these two. I think that's one of the highlights, to be honest with you, to see what they do with these two, because they're so close yet so far away. And I don't think enough guys will sway their vote to get him to the 75 mark as well. And we're going to close the show real quick here. Mitch, one of the coolest things I saw when the Braves won it all, and congratulations to you, man, for this as well, was you with your 12-year-old boy celebrating it. Talk to me for a few minutes about the Braves winning it all and how awesome that was for you.
Oh man, I still haven't come down. You know, we kind of talked a minute before we started the show, just that, you know, hey, if they don't start playing baseball again in the spring, I don't care, because the Braves are the reigning world champs. So whatever, we'll figure it out. You know, I'm just you know, it's really surreal, man. And listen, like I like sports in general, but when the Braves are in the playoffs, things get serious. And so I was so happy, man. And like I said, I was 12 in 95. The Braves won, and it was like it was like this relief almost, because they were supposed to win, but this one was totally different. It was, you know, they just kept upsetting people. They just kept winning. And so to experience that with my 12-year-old was incredible, you know, and to see him get into it, it was awesome. And I hear a lot of the old timers talk about how 91 was the best season ever, and they loved that big run, that worst to first run and all. But for guys my age and younger, like, this is it. Like 95, we were little kids. We couldn't really take it all in. We couldn't really, we couldn't drink it in because it was so crazy, you know. And we were little kids, but this year was the sweetest, man. Just to see the Braves, you know, really play the game the right way, from the front office to the pitching to the hitting, just every part of it. I mean, it was just incredible. It was surreal. Still haven't come down. And once again, sharing that with my son, I was telling you earlier, man, like, you know, he had practice at night. We get in the truck after practice. We're listening on the radio, white knuckling at home. You know, nobody sleeps for like a month. You know, it was just the coolest thing, man. And I had, like, you know, fever blisters, like I was bloodshot eyes. I was like falling asleep at work in my chair, you know. And I loved it, man. You know, it was a surreal experience because it seemed so far gone, you know. Yeah, so, but you know, whenever we had the injuries early in the year, we're like, oh, we're done. And but they fought back, man. So it was awesome, dude. It was incredible.
That's awesome.
It really is, man. And congratulations to you on that, for sure. Absolutely awesome. And one of the things me and David talk about is we've known you guys forever, it seems like, and you Braves have never won it since we've known each other. So that's off the table now.
26 years, man.
Yeah.
Golly, I can't believe it.
It's unreal, man. I was telling you before the show, I half expected to see you in the parade hanging upside down from a light post in your underwear, man. You were so happy. So,
man, I mean, listen, dude, if I hadn't have, you know, we have 3 kids, and, you know, and Krista's working this year, you know, so we've had to really be responsible. But let me just tell you, it crossed my mind, man, you know.
That's absolutely awesome, man. So once again, congratulations. And we'll close the show with one little thing from Coach to you, Mitch. I reached out to Coach this week to talk a little bit about you, give you a little bit of a shout out. And here's what Coach Hall had to say about you. Oh boy, old George Strait Jr.
That's great.
He was my NASCAR buddy. When baseball wasn't going good, we'd always could talk racing. He rode shotgun a lot with me. He was forever had an upbeat spirit about him and encouragement to everybody. Now he's a true Braves fan to the core, and he loves mountain biking. And as a player, Mitch was an absolutely awesome utility player. He was fast as snot, could run around the base paths like nobody's business. And I think he played every position which every team needs. So he had a lot of cool things to say about you, man. So I figured I'd end the show with that.
Oh, that's all, man. Golly, dude. You know, I almost brings a tear to my eye right there, man. You know, it's funny. We get together on this, and I'm always reminded how much I love the game and how much I miss it. And I miss Coach, and you know, and man, that's awesome. That means the world to me, man, because you know, you get out there and you don't get to experience the game like you used to, so that's awesome to hear that, man. Thanks for sharing that with me, DJ. It means a lot, dude.
Very cool, man. You're welcome, buddy. And well, David, here goes another episode, man. Next week, unfortunately, we won't have as much to talk about because we're not cramming everything into this. Baseball's pretty much stopped now, so we'll see what we got going for next week. But Mitch, thanks a lot for joining us tonight, man. It's always
you guys.
Always a lot of fun to have you on, and it was a lot of fun today too with your Braves winning it all and getting to argue about the Hall of Fame and talk some baseball with you, man. So once again, congratulations, and everybody, please like our page on YouTube, subscribe to it. David, it's been a pleasure, man. We'll talk to you all soon.
Good to see you guys.